Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. I'm Rachel Ruby. And if you are watching on YouTube, I'd love to ask you to please subscribe, sign up for notifications, like, comment, and share so that I can provide more great content. Today, we are going to be talking about using traditional therapy to heal from divorce. And my guest is Dr. Kimberly Grocher. She is the most phenomenally accomplished woman. And when I was reading through to pick and choose all the things to talk about, I was just beyond impressed. So Dr. Grocher she runs Life by Design Psychotherapy, where she provides psychotherapy, coaching, and consultation services. She is also a clinical assistant professor of social work and in psychiatry at the Weill Cornell Medical College and New York Presbyterian Hospital. And she is a lecturer in social work at Columbia University School of Social Work. As if that's not enough, she is a certified coach. She is a certified yoga teacher. She is a qualified mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher. Her research focuses on mind-body therapies to improve health outcomes for Black women. And she and she's an expert speaker, and there's so much more. But to start that out with this incredible, impressive list of accomplishments, welcome, Dr. Grocher. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just have to say, I love how you say my last name. I think that's how it should be pronounced. It's pronounced Grocher.
Grocher. Okay. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Grocher. And why don't we start out with the question? Because as I mentioned to you off of the podcast, I am a divorce healing coach. So a lot of this, my podcast is always focusing on the coaching perspective. And I love that people going through divorce have options. So what are some things that traditional therapy can help people with as they go through divorce compared to coaching?
Sure, definitely. So, there's so much overlap there that I think this is a really good question. And I just want to start by saying I think both the therapy and coaching have their places and have their uses and can be super helpful. And it really comes down to a few things. So for one, with therapy, therapy can help with what's happening right now, helping you cope, helping you figure out how to take care of yourself during this very, very stressful time, but also sometimes, especially when we're dealing with the breakup of a relationship, it triggers things from our past. We start to question about how we came to be in this relationship, how things worked out the way they did, what our contribution to that was or not, because we don't want to get into the thing that is always two people, because that's not the case.
Right.
But, therapy can help you kind of dive into that past life, to that past work, looking at your childhood, maybe looking at the teen years, early adulthood, different things, different patterns in your life that maybe have contributed to where you are now, but can also be sources of strength, right? So not just what happened, but what's there, what can you pull from, what resources did you develop earlier in life to kind of help you navigate this path now?
Yeah.
So when I think about coaching, I think that coaching can touch on some of those, but often coaching is really about the here and now and the future. And like, how do we help you move forward? How do we help you get through this? Therapy can do that as well. But again, there's more ability to go into the past. And also therapists, we have years of training when it comes to trauma. And what people don't realize is that a lot of times disruption in relationship can be trauma.
Yeah.
And so again, while coaching, I think, can help with like what's happening right now, moving forward, if there's some type of trauma in the past or even that's happened right now, therapy can dig a little deeper with helping to heal that.
Right. So as far as somebody, let's say, who's initiated the divorce process and they're going through the motions and they recognize, hey, I need to heal. I feel, all this negativity inside, or I don't feel good and I want to move on. And I know I'm supposed to, heal myself, but how do I do it? And they're looking at that. How does someone decide, with the different options? I mean, I always tell people, I meet with them initially and I say, hey, this is what I do. And I listen to them and see if we're a beneficial connection for each other. But would you say that that's really the best way for someone, is to maybe talk to a therapist, talk to a coach, talk to, maybe someone else who provides a different aspect, like an energy worker? I mean, there's so many different types of people out there. How do you know who you need?
Yeah, I think talking to different people can be a great help, different types of healers. The first thing because I do like to be kind of practical, is also like thinking about how you're paying for this, right? Because I think that's a big difference between a lot of things. And a lot of times people need to use their insurance or some type of benefits from their employer. And if that's the case, therapy might be helpful because therapy might be covered by your insurance, whether the therapist is in network or you can submit and have your insurance reimburse you. So finances are key. What do you have access to? What are the resources available to you to pay for these different modalities? So that might be one thing to consider. And some employers do offer access to coaching, right? And also might have packages for like different type of energy healers and things. So checking out your resources first, seeing what is financially doable for you might be one of the places to start. Because I know with divorce, finances become a huge factor.
Okay. A lot of times. Yeah. And I think, that's really, you had a good point there about the insurance. And I also feel that, I've seen some clients who have been through the traditional therapy and didn't find that helped. But again, I think that really has to do with the person and the connection, more so than the modality. If you are maybe thinking about divorce, let's say, and you and your spouse, you think you're heading down the road, but you want to, see if you can fix it, resolve it, whatever, which is, I think, a really good idea rather than just obviously jumping to divorce. Because breaking up a marriage, of course, is a big deal, right? So if you want, because I know you coach and you provide therapy for couples as well. So this is a great question. This is just coming to me as I'm talking to you. How does a couple find a couples therapy coach that can kind of help them both when they may be coming from different places?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
So I just want to first clarify. So when I work with couples, I do therapy. That is one crossover I don't do. I don't do relationship coaching.
Got it.
Only because for me, I'm often working with couples who have such deep-rooted trauma that it ends up being like a little bit deeper. But relationship coaching can be super helpful too. So I want to go back to, I want to kind of tie in the other question and this question and kind of just, yes. So talking to a coach/therapist is a great first step, right? Because first you want to make sure that you're comfortable with whoever you're talking to. And if both of you can talk to the person, even better. Do you get a sense that they listen? Do you get a sense that they're understanding where you're coming from? Can they tell you based on, some preliminary information, how they see you all working together, how they might help you, and then you can kind of decide from there, whether it's the coach or the therapist or this particular coach or this particular therapist that is going to meet you all where you are and help you get to where you want to be, whatever that is. Because a lot of people seek couples therapy / relationship coaching for many different reasons. And sometimes it's not to stay together. Sometimes it's how to find a way to amicably separate,
right?
How to peacefully co-parent, right? So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So many moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I suppose many people like myself, I was referred to somebody and she was wonderful. But I think, and I don't know how it works with insurance, if the couple selects somebody and then kind of just has their initial meeting with that person, with that therapist, and how much can you even tell in that initial meeting if that therapist is going to be right for you, right? So I guess you just have to have a session or two and kind of see how that goes and see what the plan is and test the waters, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of walking somebody who might be interested through that process. So like you said, first is the referral. How do you find this therapist, right? And so like you said, word of mouth, maybe somebody you know is working with somebody that they think is really great or knows of somebody. Looking online, Googling, therapists in your area, talking to your doctors. A lot of times physicians have, connections.
Right.
Looking at social clubs that you might be a member of, whether that's a country club, whether that's a fraternity or sorority, whether that's some kind of civic association, your church, your synagogue, like talking to leaders and, or clergy members. A lot of times they have connections with like therapists or mental health professionals. So, there are a number of ways that you can kind of find a therapist that works with you. The other, that might work for you. The other thing is before you even have the first session, a lot of therapists will offer you an initial consultation.
Okay.
That can be anywhere from 10, 15 minutes to a full session, right? Okay. Where it's complimentary. You don't necessarily have to pay for it, but you can kind of get a sense of how they work. You can ask any logistical questions and you can start to get a feel for, just how it feels to talk to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's so important. And I think, I mean, obviously you can feel whether you're connecting with someone on a certain level and whether that person is going to be able to help. But I imagine as a couples therapist that it is challenging if you have two very different personalities or two people coming from different perspectives. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And trying to be kind of, neutral, right? So to speak. Mm-hmm. Yeah. To be able to help kind of bring them back together and to see if they can do that. Or like you said, if they are splitting, to see how we can do that amicably. And that idea I love. I mean, and the whole conscious uncoupling movement and things such as that, where people, I think that is hopefully in time going to whittle down the stigma that is associated with divorce in this country, because that is such a huge problem. And it does get in the way, even in couples who go to therapy or go to a coach and are amicable to start and want to do it smoothly, maybe for the children, maybe just for themselves. Yep. And sometimes it gets nasty anyway. So, especially when you bring lawyers into the ring, so to speak. Anyway, so that's such interesting information. What about, some people have this notion that going to therapy means there's something wrong with them, that they have a problem, so to speak. Mm-hmm. A lot of people identify that with therapy. And I think maybe that's why this whole coaching business has sprung up so successfully, because like you said, it's more focused on the present and moving forward. So how does one get over that idea? And why doesn't it mean that? It doesn't mean you have a problem. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's so much stigma around therapy. And I'm glad to see that it's starting to change a bit.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the work that can be done in therapy too, is like, if you decide to go this route, which can be challenging if you're coming from a background or a community, whatever that is, where there is a lot of stigma around therapy. That can be something that is worked through in the therapy process too, right? And I think that's also one of the things why the right fit is so important, right? Because you do want somebody that, first of all, you feel comfortable working with. You feel like, they're really hearing you and they're able to kind of frame things in a way where this is the problem that you're experiencing. You are not the problem.
Right.
Right. Because that's very different than like, I'm the problem. I'm the one that needs to be fixed versus like, there's a situation that I'm dealing with and I want some tools. I want some assistance with navigating it.
Yeah.
So that's one way I like just to present therapy to people, is that it's not that you're the issue. It's not that it's your fault. It's not that you're the one with the problem. It's that you're obviously struggling with something in life right now, right? Because you're human. And so maybe it would help to have somebody in your corner who is just focused on you and who's just focused on hearing you and is really just focused on helping you figure out, how do I navigate this situation? Either if it's something that I can change, help me figure out how to change it. What are some tools available to me? And if it's not something I can change, how can I deal with it? How can I cope with it?
Yeah. And that's so important. I think some people that I speak with do have deeper seated issues that go back, whether it's like a daddy father issue or, some kind of abuse that happened many as a child, let's say, that will come out and assert itself in the marriage in that relationship. And then that can be with either spouse, obviously, and it can affect the connection. And so I think that's such a great concept that you can have someone, like you said, in your corner, helping you to dive into those things that happened maybe a long time ago, even that might be rearing the ugly head, so to speak, in the middle of your relationship and creating this friction that is contributing to or making a problem within the relationship. And it's not that you are the problem. It's that you need to know how to understand what happened and realize that you can move forward even though you were a victim. Right. So I really like that. Is there anything else that you can tell us about traditional therapy, or maybe, some guidelines or some perks that it might provide to those who are specifically thinking of divorcing, or who are no longer, getting along, or whatever problems they may be having?
Yes. So therapy can really help you figure out some of the root causes of the issues, like you kind of started talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, where is this really coming from? Like, maybe this is not about the dishes or picking up the kids on time,
right,
or having date night. Like, maybe this goes a little bit deeper. And if so, what is that? Whether that's for you as the individual or the couple, right? And for individuals, it can kind of help you figure out what you want to do. Like, what's your next step? Whether it's to stay in the relationship or it's to figure out your next steps individually, right? And helping you to have a safe place, again, where you can get clear and where this person is supporting you and on your team. There isn't this like weigh in on, well, this person has an opinion because they're invested. This person has an opinion because they're invested. Not that those opinions and point of views don't count or aren't important, but sometimes you just need to be able to talk through some of your things without somebody else kind of coming in with what everybody else needs.
Or telling you what you should or shouldn't do and not letting you make your own decision. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And I think that's an important part of therapy too.
Definitely.
Like, good therapy is not telling you what to do. It's not giving you advice. It's really helping you to come to a decision that feels right for you.
Right. Let me ask you this. So let's say there's a couple who is going through divorce or thinking about going through divorce, and they seek couples counseling. Should that couple also be doing individual therapy? And if so, do you recommend that is done with a different therapist for each of them than the couples therapist?
Oh, that's such a great question. Okay. So depending upon what's going on, I can speak for me and how I practice. Depending upon what's going on, there are times where I will recommend that each partner is in some type of individual therapy. The type of couples therapy that I do, there are times where I will meet with each partner individually, but the goal is always to come back together. So the individual sessions might be to help me, learn each partner a little bit more. If it's a particularly complicated conflict, help me to understand their perspectives a little more than I'm able to do in the couple session. But then we're always coming back together, and anything we do in the individual session can be brought into the couple session. So I stress it's not individual therapy. And the way I practice, I won't do individual therapy while I'm working with the couple, because I feel like it's too easy to create you're their individual therapist and you're seeing us for couples, and you're really more invested in them than you are me.
And it kind of, I can imagine that would be very challenging for you as a therapist, because you want your natural inclination is to help this person, right? And really dive deep and get into, but you're also working with this person as part of a we. And so if you're counseling the two me's and then you're counseling the we, it's almost like, I don't know. I think of it in comparison to the law. Obviously, everyone has to have a different attorney on the two sides, right? You can't have the same attorney. So, but if you have a mediator, the mediator is someone who can meet with both of you and discuss the divorce as it relates to both of you. But the goal is to do this amicably and not litigiously. So I don't know. It's a little bit different. So
no, but that's a great example. Because there are some similarities there. Yeah, and that's exactly right, I would think. So if a couple is working with a couples therapist and they also have individual therapists, they can always request the couples therapist and their individual therapist to kind of talk and collaborate, so that each party knows what's going on. If they're comfortable with that, they would give permission to both therapists to do that. So that is an option.
It's nice. It's kind of like you have this team, and there's certain things, if you as an individual say, I don't want this being shared, then obviously there's a confidentiality privilege, right? So that doesn't have to be shared. But the things that you are okay with being shared can be shared, and then everyone's just kind of working towards this, whatever the goal is, or trying to figure out what the goal is. So,
exactly.
A lot of helpful information. And again, I think that if you are facing divorce or thinking about divorce, that definitely, I always say, even though I wrote a book on being happy after divorce and how possible it is, I don't advocate divorce per se. There are definitely some situations where I feel it's necessary, but and it may not need this kind of a situation where you go to a therapist or a coach to figure out whether it's necessary. But it's definitely great to have these options for the healing process, because many people, like I said in the beginning, they want to heal. They know they're supposed to heal. They just don't know how to get started. And it's just really a great help. So you can do your research, and like Dr. Grocher said, you can try to figure out what resonates with you, and maybe talk to people look up comments that therapists and coaches have received, and speak with them all and just decide who feels right, who resonates, and you'll know. So, yeah. So this has been great information. And why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers how they can reach out to you if they have any questions?
Absolutely. So you can email me at kim@kimberlygrocher.com, or you can visit my website at www.kimberlygrocher.com. You can also Google me if the name is a little too long. Bonds like savings bonds. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you who are listening to this podcast, Grocher is Grocher. So Kimberly Bonds, Bonds, Grocher.
Yep.
Yes. So thank you so much for being here and for all this great information. I think it's just so wonderful to be able to provide options, right? Because when we're stressed and we're overwhelmed and we're going through this, sometimes we don't think about the options. So I really appreciate your time and all that you do to help people. And you are an impressive woman. Let's leave it at that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.